Full disclosure, news and commentary number 79, 79, 79, 79, 79. How's it going? It is 11:52 p.m. on Monday. So technically, I started recording this edition on Monday, so I haven't missed my due day. It's incredible, episode 79 of Full Disclosure. Kept it going, kept grinding it out. It's been more than 30 weeks of Raw, AEW Dark, and Dynamite reports as well. And now the gaming stuff is up and running. The gaming stuff has led to something really cool I'm going to tell you about in a second. What is our commentary about? I got a hard copy, magazine, oh my God, of the PWI 500. And I'm going to go over all the notable names, and it's a whole lot of them. Look at that list of the people that I'm going to talk about. I'm going to talk about PWI 500 in general, all the bad feelings that surround it, all the good feelings that surround it, and what it says about wrestling people and things in general, and the importance or lack thereof of Pro Wrestling Illustrated in the modern time and all the other issues that brings up. So you can imagine that commentary alone is going to be pretty fucking big, right? Add to that the biggest weekend we have had in Georgia wrestling in 2020. And I would argue the most important weekend. And I'm going to go over all of those shows. I'm going to go over the various news stories. Yes, we're going to talk about Drew Game. We're going to talk about AWE. We're going to talk about Viral. We're going to talk about Southern Fried. We're going to talk about Southern Honor. We're going to talk about Action and everything in between. We're going to talk about other shows as well. This show's going to be a lot, and I'm not going to hold myself to a time limit on it. I'm going to do this shit till it's done, motherfucker. And if I get tired or if I fuck up, I'll just hit stop, and then I'll start recording again, and I'll put it all together in the wash, since I have any number of pictures that I need to add to this shit as well. It's going to be huge. But how do I feel about people who are insistent that, and this is not an exaggeration, it's going to sound like it is, dozens of people, dozens with a S or a Z, depending on whether it's the 90s or not, contacted me about, when's Full Disclosure coming out today? When's Full Disclosure coming out today? And fuck, how does that feel? Actually, what it does is it fills me with that was a pretty asshole move. Power! Unlimited power! By the way, this is a shirt that I got before, really from one of the people who enjoy the gaming stuff for me and the kids. Speaking of the gaming stuff for me and the kids, I got my first official sponsor. What the fuck? Let's put it right here. Raz Energy Drink. For the best energy drink on the market, use my link below in the description. I'm very excited. It's a cliche to say I worked very hard, but I've wanted a sponsor, and this channel, if I'm being honest, there isn't a huge ton of subscribers, and most of the videos don't get a lot of views, but what the videos get, especially the gaming videos of my kids or myself, what they get is they don't get a high number of people watching necessarily, though that number is growing steadily. But what they do get is people who watch the whole fucking video. Even this 3-hour video I had of me playing State of Decay, the people that watched the thing. And so Raz Energy has come on board. It's a legit sponsorship. meaning I get money for it. And so I'm very, very excited, of course. So if you would just check it out, use the link below. Hook yourself up with some energy drink. They have sales all the time because they're new to the market and they're very, very aggressive. So, and you can buy them in any number of places. But if you use that link below, it helps me out. It hooks me up. Makes me feel good. Thanks a lot. It's a really big deal to me if you can't tell that I got a sponsor. Which begs the question, by the way, look at my, can you see? There it is. See that red? I'll just say that like my workouts have gotten more intense and they're different kinds of workouts. And so blood vessel in my eye came about as a result of certain kind of working out I'm doing. And I'll just leave it there. But it's nice to be working out even harder. It's that eating piece I really got to get control of. I'm not fat by any stretch. I'm in decent shape and I can work out. And today I did sprints and did all kinds of crazy stuff and weightlifting stuff. But I really need to get the eating piece going because I want to definitely trim down as well as get stronger and all that good stuff. All right. So got the sponsor. We already know what we're doing as far as our commentary. Patreon people, you are very much beloved. And I haven't talked to Larry about this officially, but my thought on the the tipping point, which won't be tomorrow, the 6th, or no, tomorrow the 6th. It'll be the 13th. That's October 13th. You know what that means to me? We need to get on it, folks. We need to set the rules and parameters for the Georgia Wrestling History Awards. And I think that that's the best place to discuss it and finalize everything and for Larry and I to announce stuff. And we may have guests as well in regards to that. But that's what I'm going to pitch to Larry. I think that's what we're going to do. We've decided to go ahead with the awards. But we want to make sure everybody's clear on what the expectations are because the nominees are probably going to be far less than they have been before, meaning there's going to be about 3 a category, which means the people that get in, people are really going to have to earn it and really push. And I think we have a number of people who have sort of taken the forefront of any number of awards from this last weekend. But thank you to Brian, Larry, not that one, but the other one, Derek, Joe Black, Dan, D, Diana, whole lot of D's. Brett, Rob Rod, Southern Honor, and of course our big 3, Viral Pro Wrestling, Eric the World Walker, and the OG Myron. Now there's a lot of you who could do any number of that with me, which makes me feel really good. Shit's fun. Let's dive in. Now for the major shows, and I would consider the major shows the action shows that happened, the double show and then the future showcase. Pro South, Southern Honor, and Southern Fried. And with them, I'm going to do a pro and a con approach. I'm also going to talk about AWE news, viral news, and a little bit of commentary about IWE. Georgia Championship had a show as well. Man, it's a lot of shit to go over. And let's jump in. Southern Fried is who I'm going to start with. Having a report from John Johnson was a huge thing. Because, let's face it, Larry and Rob did a great job spreading themselves around. Rob Rod covered the action shows. Rob Rod also covered... Let me make sure I'm right about this. Well, he covered the action shows, and that's certainly important. Larry covered the Southern Honor Show, and I'll save that for the end. Southern Fried, which didn't get coverage from either Rob Rod or Larry, had John Johnson write an incredibly good and detailed report that really captured the flavor of what was going on. I really liked it. Scott Hensley wrote the report for the Future Showcase. By the way, all these are available on Georgia Wrestling History, GWH News and Notes, blogs. Excuse me. gwhnewsandnotes.blogspot.com is where you can look at all those reports. Fuck a duck. Larry wrote a thing for Pro South as well. Georgia Championship sent their own thing in. Okay. Southern Fried. All right. So the good news. They had 240 fans. And they got heat, baby. Heat. Nuclear heat by the Todd and Myron thing. Now, the Todd and Manders thing. Now, anybody who's kind of questioning, like, oh, should be good? Has this been played out? Has that been played out? I have nothing negative to say. On the contrary, I think it's great. I think it's a heat angle. It's so wonderful to see people booking heat. And getting rewarded for that. It feels like Southern Fried has put themselves in a great position to finish out the year and even begin the year with a number of strong angles going forward and a number of strong things happening. There's already conjecture who may return. The Southern Fried fans are into it, man. They're mad. They're heated in a good way. They're pleading with Manders, get rid of Todd, but he can't. They've sort of covered their bases as far as explaining why this feud is happening, why there isn't a simple resolution, how it's going to have to be fixed in the ring. All that great news, super great heat. Todd and Dylan in a 2-horse race for Booker with, I think, Ace Haven as a dark horse. But there's no doubt this weekend showed that great stuff from Southern Honor and Southern Fried. Southern Fried leaning heavily into the heat in a main event angle. And even people who tend to not want to like Southern Fried cannot deny that that's red hot. It's the right move and it looks great. That's the good news. What's the bad news? I'm going to put it right here. The bad news. Look at that picture. What should it be? It should be Manders bloody on the canvas with wrestlers around him that hit him. Where the fuck are the good photos, Southern Fried? Look at this shit. You know what this looks like? It looks like Manders just got a lobotomy. Look at it and tell me I'm fucking wrong. You can get mad at me all you want. Is this the picture that you want to fucking... Remember how bad the Daryl Morris fucking picture was when he got color and all that shit? That was part and parcel of their decline and being destroyed. Look at this is not acceptable. This is not... And I'm not talking about like 3 dots of blood means he didn't get good color. I don't know if he fucking got good color or not. Because there aren't fucking pictures of it happening. Are you telling me you can't have a couple of people even walking around with goddamn camera phones, which are better than fucking half the cameras that used to exist 20 years ago? You can't have people fucking taking pictures at ringside to take decent fucking photos? What would it cost to have somebody who would do it, who would go through hundreds of pictures, like Harold J. used to, like Rob Rod used to? $25? Is it worth it to get a fucking picture worth of shit? Look at this. Who let this picture be taken? Who didn't stop before you wrapped his head and fucking take a great picture? Pictures are fucking important, folks. And this isn't just for Southern Fried. This is for everybody. You need the great fucking photos. Video is wonderful if you've got it. But the Southern Fried video has always looked like shit. And the pictures are non-existent. And Southern Fried, you can't make that indelible impression on anybody outside of the people who go to your shows. And if you're saying make an impression on the people who... Only the people who go to your shows, those are the only people who are important to give an impression to, then you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. A great picture can get other people to come to your shows. A great picture got Vari Morales a fucking shot elsewhere because it got me to talk about him and other places to book him. And for the people who have been asking, by the way, when he asked, well, who the fuck is this guy, basically, meaning me, And people answered this sort of simple, oh, he used to run a promotion in Georgia and now he commentates on shit. I did a fuckload more than that. I fucking trained people who are really fucking great. And I help advise any number of people, whether you fucking know it or not out there. And that advice is making Georgia wrestling scene fucking better. I would argue that I am in the top 3, if not the number 1 person who's giving advice and saying things and making fucking shit happen, whether you know it or not. That's who the fuck I am. And I'm telling Southern Fried and everybody else, if you can't have somebody take pictures of your fucking show and get good pictures, you are fucking missing an opportunity. The great pictures of the past that happened in wrestling magazines, but otherwise are invaluable. And you have to chronicle these events. Reports are important. And like I said, having John Johnson write that report was a great idea. A wonderful idea. But there's 3 main ways that you capture shit and make impressions. Reports, video, pictures. Out of those 3, video can be a little bit of a pain in the ass, and I get that. Writing the report requires effort, but it's worth doing. But a fucking picture, in a day and age where everybody's got a fucking phone camera, come on. Handle that shit. Because if Manders is going to get color, for fuck's sake, it should be fucking chronicled. He shouldn't have a picture where I can make fun of it and go, it looks like he got a lobotomy. And then that's the impression that everybody's going to have. And you might get mad at me and say, oh, Steve's an asshole for fucking saying that. Fuck that. I say the shit. And right now, I guarantee you other groups are nervous of like, oh, fuck, is he going to take a picture and fucking make us look like assholes? I would if I had that opportunity. But if you're controlling the narrative by putting the properly great pictures out, that becomes the story. I could argue that the booking of the end of Anarchy, when we had the PCW invasion and all that shit, it did not get booked as thoroughly as I would have liked. And I think that they fucked me over on that whole thing. But at the end of the day, you know what everybody remembers? The fucking picture of Jeff bleeding and me having the weapon in my hand and holding it. That's the story that we told. And then later on, the pictures of me bloody being held by Michael Judas in the cage. Those pictures erased the memories of what I thought was an angle that could have been booked better. Because the pictures helped tell the tale. And the impressions from those pictures lasted much longer than the reports and any video about it. Pictures are invaluable. All right, have I belabored that point enough? I absolutely have. But individual wrestlers who are doing such a good job of marketing themselves and accelerating themselves, make sure you're getting the proper pictures taken of your shit and make sure you have those pictures. And I'm not talking about just to put in posters or to have for fucking glossies and all the rest of that happy horse shit. I'm talking about good fucking wrestling match pictures of you. You will be glad you have them. My greatest regret from my active wrestling career is I was not enough of a mark for myself, believe it or not. And I should have been collecting photos and collecting videos of all the shit that I did and holding on to some of the merchandise that I sold. It was all so cool and it was all so great, and I have almost none of it. And I'm fucking sorry about that. And part of it was me not wanting to be a mark. And so when I would wrestle these fucking prominent guys, I wouldn't take pictures with them, and I fucking should have. That is a regret that I have, so let me speak to the people out there, wrestling and people currently involved. Get the pictures. There's a line that you shouldn't cross as far as crossing into markdom, but at the end of the day, have these keepsakes. I wrestled actively before the age of the camera phone. You do not. You've got your fucking phone everywhere you go. Get the pictures. And I'm not talking about just with famous wrestlers that you work with or you're on a card with and shit like that. I mean with you and your fucking boys and girls that you're working with. You'll be glad you have them. Action. October 2nd was the Rob Rod Report shows. 35 seats, sold out both shows. Seemed really great. The Actions Future Showcase with Scott Hensley wrote about on October 3rd. Scott Hensley was pushing hard that it was a success. It was a success. They had 80 people for that one, apparently. Positives. At first, I had it sort of as a negative, but then again, they're trying to control the story. So I'm going to list it as a positive. It was called the Actions Feature Showcase and the Action Show. So they've successfully sort of maneuvered it away from the SCI branding and put it under the Action banner. And it makes sense. They weren't able to have the SCI this year. Next year's SCI, if it happens, is a long way away. And I think it's smart to sort of rebrand everything under Action. I think that's smart. Quibbling about booking aside, that's not important. Here's the negative to me. And it's accentuated, and it does highlight a difference between Action and Southern Honor and Southern Fried, which I think that they're happy to have that distinction. But I think it shows a weakness, and the weakness is this. Southern Fried now has a hot, red hot, smoking hot angle. Southern Honor also has a number of heat angles going. Action is now almost exclusively clinging to we're the best fake fighting around. Who cares? They need heat. And they would argue, no, we don't, no, we don't, no, we don't. At the end of the day, it's not just about the bell-to-bell and the ring work. It's about, can these guys... It's hard to learn and really express yourself with facial expressions and all the performance things you're doing. It's much easier to do if you're involved in heated angles and heat, as opposed to the story being told just from bell to bell. There's a marked difference. And it also influences your promos. Let's face it, the best promo that was cut, according to Rob Rod, was the one after the best match. And those two things shouldn't necessarily have to happen together. Yeah. So I would suggest to Action. And again, I've never seen their show. I can only go off reports. But they tend to sort of blur together in my mind. This guy faces this guy. It's why they like tournaments and shit. This guy faces this guy, and this guy faces this guy. And this guy's involved in something that's important, but these other guys really aren't. It's just about what happens bell to bell. And we anticipate these sort of bigger matches. Okay, that's a way to do it, but when's the last time they had a thing going on? And when you don't book heat all the time, what ends up happening is you make bad decisions when you do book heat. Remember when Matt Griffin did that thing with Billy Buck at the SCI Invitational and just fell flat on its fucking face? It's because that was their one heat angle. And then they ended up thinking that they could extend it to this other product that wasn't quite them, and it completely flopped. Bookers and writers and promoters need training and practice and a chance to make mistakes too. I think people forget that. They expect perfection. And bookers and the rest of them, these are guys who are learning and practicing a trade as well. And Action needs to book more heat angles in that have different flavors to the story rather than it's a rivalry. That it's got to feel more personal issues here and there so they can experiment with it so they're better at working it. Cool. Pro South. Larry sort of pointed out that this show was longer and a little short on regular star power. The positives is Pro South keeps chugging along, man, and their guys seem along for the ride, and they seem very enthusiastic about that product. That's good. The bad thing is small things not being done well. And Larry pointed out some of those in the report. Again, you want to look at gwhnewsandnotes.blogspot.com to see it. But like, for example, Tyler Culprit, who's their new big heel champion, being embarrassed by the outsider. I don't think that's the move. I don't think that's the move. And I think guys have to protect themselves better too. And bookers have to protect them as well. All right. I'm going to shift gears, talk about some other different things. Tank, my man, is 50 years old. Happy birthday to the Tankster. Great to have that voice out there fucking bitching and moaning and talking his shit and talking his truth, as the kids say. But he's 50. Which reminds me that I, too, am old. I'm 48. Not saying, oh, I'm 2 years younger than Tanky. No, I'm saying, like, holy fuck. It reminds me of my mortality. And especially as we had a number of people pass who are young. One of those, first and foremost, Drew Game. Fuck. His obituary, a link to it is on Georgia Wrestling History. Drew Game, what can I say beyond? When you're a guy, look at his Facebook page and look at all the things that people wrote about him. And I read his obituary, I was quite taken with, married for like only 5 years, and they have kids, and it's rough, man. But people universally like that guy. And we should all be so lucky in the sense that obviously he's a guy that people thought a lot of. And something else was kind of rare when it came to Drew Game dying, Andrew, which is normally, I'm just going to speak, people make shit about themselves, and it's one of those things about people in general, but wrestlers in particular, that I hate. And I only saw a couple examples of wrestlers who were they probably didn't realize they were doing it. They were just speaking in general and feeling guilty about Drew dying for some reason. I'm not saying some reason like that's inconceivable, but like, they had their reasons that they felt guilty. And they tended to make it about themselves and didn't realize it. But that normally happens much more. I think Drew, because of who he was, inspired people to just mourn him and miss him. And do something that was pretty significant, which is to make wrestlers stop navel gazing and actually think about him, which is a testament to the kind of guy he was. So Drew Game, rest in peace. You definitely want to check out that obituary. And kudos to the various wrestling groups that did a tribute to Drew Game. And to Animal, of course. That's significant, of course. But Drew Game was a guy who worked with a lot of guys. And had his own fucking style, man. Fucking made his mark. Had his own way of doing things. And it's super fucking cool. All right. AWE has got this... okay, I'm an asshole. I hesitate to call it television. It is what it is. It's Roku and it's other stuff. We'll see what comes of that. I would love to know what the plan is. And they might get mad hearing me say this shit. I'm not talking shit. I'm talking real. And the thing just seems very amorphous to me. So they're going to have this TV show, and it's starting in January. Are they going to use old footage, or are they making new footage? I understand that they're going to make new footage. What's the plan of having shows so they can do tapings? I want to hear that kind of shit. It would make me feel better, and it would give us something to talk about and promote. For Viral, they kind of got on me about, look, we've made all these announcements, so we're going to be running again, and we're going to strip the guys of the titles. So I like that they have an angle that when we come back, Hancock says all the titles are going to be stripped, and then Kitchens is fighting that along with the champions. Like, no, that's not cool. I think it's cool that they've come up with sort of a heat angle built around what happens when we start doing shows again. But again, until you announce dates of fucking shows, it's very hard to get behind the idea of something. Like NWA started doing tapings again, and I think it's one of these things that just completely blew by people because it was like, oh, I didn't even really fucking know they were doing that until they started announcing so-and-so or such and such as the new national champion. Like, oh, okay. But I do like the fact that Viro's got a story going. IWE, I don't know what the fuck's going on. Except they say they have a women's champion. Okay, great. All right. Don't worry, Southern Honor, I'm getting to you. Yours is going to take a while to talk about because there's a lot of cool stuff to talk about. So I'm going to do that right before the commentary. But first, let's talk about Georgia Championship Wrestling. They're claiming 270. All right. Let's put up this picture. Now that if I was cherry picking pictures, and these are pictures that people sent me, because they're claiming 270, and if you looked at that picture, there's no fucking way. But I looked at the video that was sent. There's like 18 to 20 minutes of video that were taken from someone's camera phone, probably. And I took the best still I could that showed the widest shot of the crowd, so I got a sense that, okay, there's nobody behind this shot to not be counted. So here's that picture. And 270, let's do the math. 4 sides of the ring, right? So you're looking at about 65 people per side. Does that look like there's 65 people per side? No. I think if you're being generous, you're looking at like 50 per side, give or take. Some parts less, some sides more. And so that's about 200. It's nothing to be ashamed of. I don't get... If I'm going to say they're claiming 270, they're claiming 270 in order that they can match and be in the neighborhood of places like Southern Fried and Southern Violence and Wrestling. And again, I hate the line. Now, if Georgia, I'm not going to listen to a lot of the people from that place because they fucking lie perpetually. I will say if there's a wrestler that I trust who is there who will validate that, though wrestlers are so shitty at fucking counting, I don't trust them. But Scott Hudson was there. If Scott Hudson fucking contacts me and goes, yeah, there's 270, I'll retract. Until then, I'm going to give them maybe 200, but probably less. Again, you're looking at 65 to 70 to get like 280-ish, 270 to 280-ish. And is that what, does that picture show that? No, at least not to me. All right. Oh, before I talk about Southern Honor, I'm just going to take care of a quick Ask Platinum question. And I'm just going to do it right here because it's funny and I can answer it without speaking out loud, without verbalizing. Out of all the terrible names in Retribution, which one is my favorite? And my answer is... yeah. In fact, anytime Retribution was out at Raw, I would cheer by going... it's fucking awesome. Southern Honor, 382 people. Awesome. Here's the good. And there's a lot of good. And even the bad is not so bad. Though, I just like the thought of Gary Lamb's butthole fucking puckering up, being afraid of what I'm going to say the bad is. So I'm going to string that shit out as long as possible. The good. That Larry report was amazing. Larry obviously loved it. He was really honest about mask use. It was the best Larry Goodman report I have read in a long time. In fact, it's just capturing the flavor of it, the honesty of it. He adored this show. And again, I hope Gary Lamb and others realize how important Larry is to have at your show and how much you really want him to be there and how he doesn't have bias. Look, Larry is the guy. And some of you might be surprised that I have not talked about, let's say, some of the shit that people are expecting me to talk about, not in regards to Southern Honor, about other entities that are fucking trying to start up and fucking fight with Larry or Georgia Wrestling History. I'm not talking about that shit. I addressed it in fucking Patreon. Motherfucker. Links below. You can join my Patreon if you want to see that 20-minute video that I fucking put out today about all of that shit. And stuff from PCW's past that would fucking interest you. It's worth joining my fucking Patreon. Go ahead and fucking do it. And get yourself a fucking Raz Energy drink while you do it. I've become that guy. Great fucking show. Joe Black and Corey. So wonderful to hear that Corey is in fucking great shape. Best shape he's been in. And Joe, and they put on a 25 fucking minute match. That was completely different than the Logan Creed and fucking Gunnar Miller match, which sounded like a fucking awesome match. And Logan Creed, by the way, now that shows are running, I can put out a fucking P list of like the top 10 wrestlers and really do a good job. But Logan Creed, let me make no mistake about this. He's no longer number one. Spoiler alert. However, he is the MVP of Georgia Wrestling right now. Did the job to put over O'Shea Edwards at the Action Futures Showcase. By the way, the fact that Logan Creed has finally made a fucking Futures Showcase for them. Hopefully they'll now loosen up and really have the best fucking people in their shit. And you can't have shit with the best if Logan Creed hasn't done your shit. Period. That's a testament to fucking greatness right there. Yes, I'm putting Logan Creed over big. Did the fucking job for Gunnar Miller. Did it in an outstanding fashion. I love the idea of the finish. I don't know how great the execution was. I know what Larry said and what other people said in regards to it. Finishing with punches and a stoppage and all that kind of shit. I love the idea of that finish. I think it fits in with Gunnar Miller's thing. I think it's great. I think the end of the Joe Black match was fucking beautiful. And I love the presentation of Corey Hollis beforehand. And they had the two best matches going out of anybody. They had the two best matches, and they delivered on both. Though, Rob Rod was completely blown away by that one match. It's worth reading his report. And by all accounts, Michael Judas and fucking Sal, what people were telling me was it was the best match that ever happened at Southern Fried. And that's saying a lot. So, folks, we had a fucking great weekend of wrestling, and Southern Honor led the way. So, the good news is Southern Honor continues to deliver in a big, bad way. The good news is there's signs of maturity showing, of really leading the way. The good news is their crowds have held steady and they're putting up a great number. And the good news is that there's signs all around of just strength up and down the card, which I really like. I like the angle with Susie Quinn, and I like the angle with Ashton Starr. I like, the way that Pillman Jr. was used. I like David Ali. I like all of this shit. And I like the people that they're bringing in and how they're finding ways to use Hold My Beer Hansen. And I just fucking love that card. It's really great. I might have to show up to one of those motherfucking shows. I guess I fucking need to. I said if they made it, but COVID happened. But at some point I need to get down there once I'm legally allowed to leave the state. That's neither here nor there. It sounds like a Patreon video to me. So all of that is to be fucking commended. And it really capped off just a great weekend of fucking wrestling. Between Action and Southern Fried, Southern Honor, they just fucking came through. And then there's news and a heartbeat from AWE and Viral. So the big five fucking have shit going on. And I got to call somebody out for faking their crowd when I live for that shit. And Pro South keeps on trucking along, whether they have their top guys or not. They're finding ways to get there. And Drew Game, sad as shit. But people are honoring him appropriately, and I think that's fucking wonderful. And Tank is still alive and kicking and 50 years old. What's the bad news about Southern Honor? They didn't run a show in September. And they kind of did it in this slick way of we run end of August and then beginning of October. But they skipped over September. And now they had their show October 3rd, and they're not running again until November 13th. So now a monthly show has become a month and a half, once a month and a half show. Not the biggest deal, and I'm sure there are reasons. I don't fucking care about the reasons. I care about this is a once a month show, and I'm already like about once a month as far as like sustainable, methodical, detailed storytelling and how difficult that already is in a once a month show. And now it's a once in a month and a half show. I'll tell you, if the next Southern Honor show after November 13th isn't until the new year, that's a fucking problem. Just saying. Commentary at the 41-minute mark. Oh boy. PWI 500. All of these people are going to get time, and this is going to take a while. If you don't like it, fuck you. Because all of these guys, in addition to getting mentioned in here, deserve to have their little moment in the sun from me, whatever that means. So we're going to start at 500 and move on. I'm not going to list every one. I'm going to point out the notables. Now, keep in mind, most of the Georgia notables or people that I'm going to talk about happen in between 500 and 400. And a lot from in the 300s. Only 3 in the 200s. About 5 or 6 in the 100s. And then I'm only going to talk about 2 or 3 in the top 100. So, Alan Angels at 492. Obviously, if it was done today, he would be much higher. But I thought that was really cool that he was listed here. And, you know, they acknowledged the Dark Order stuff and that he's doing AEW. They acknowledged that he had the Southern Honor title. I noticed most of the Southern Honor people, whoever put this in for them, got them in the 400s, right? Lee Johnson, 487. Awesome. Logan Creed, 470. I wanted to talk about his. So, former member of the MLW's dynasty, cuts an imposing physical presence. And he does, when you look at the stats, I mean, he's the biggest guy in like, out of the 400s almost. 6'8", 317. Whew, 8 years in. Not listed last year. So, good for him, right? A big draw. To be described as a big draw in the Georgia independent scenes in more ways than one. Successfully defended the Southern Honor title against AC Mack in November, but lost it to Corey Hollis the next month. Good shit. I saw people complaining that Corey Hollis wasn't here. Let me just address that right off the bat. Folks, this shit isn't real. In the sense that it's not a group of intrepid reporters who scour the internet and go in person to find out who the top 500 should be. They're not delivering motherfucking scrolls to come to the Kumite. This is a thing where you have to contact them. And it's important to do that. And fuck, if you got to do it for yourself, do it for yourself. Certainly a lot of guys in Colorado that I know that used to get in regularly. It's because they did it for themselves. Number 468, 2 spots up from Logan Creed, is QT Marshall. Again, another person who would probably be much higher if it was done on a later date. Yeah. 461, Cody Vance / Preston Vance. Yeah. AKA number 10 in the Dark Order. And he also got a picture, which is cool. Because he wrestled John Moxley. So, yeah, if you wrestle people of significance, and here's a little tip for the people who want to get in the PWI 500. The ones that tend to get in have the significant people that they wrestled, but not a huge list, just the biggest 1 or 2 or 3 things, the biggest 1 or 2 things they accomplished, and then a general thing about them that can stand out a little. Right? So those 3 elements will help you get in as well. $457 Ashton Starr. That makes me happy. So Georgia native holds victories over AEW Dark staples Lee Johnson and Sean Dean, right? That's what he's done. Challenged Trisha Dora for the Pan-African Diaspora Championship at Pete. So he did an intergender match. That's the sort of interesting thing about him. Upset Corey Hollis for the Southern Honor Wrestling title, but quickly lost it back in a steel cage match. So again, I would suspect that people from Southern Honor are the ones who pushed their guys in, and that's smart. Fred Yehai, who's a highly regarded guy who's trained by a genius, perennially underrated indie grappler, was slightly less active this year. That's why he fell. You know what he was ranked last year? 237. He's dropped to 452. Right? Also beat ACH, Karrion Kross, and others. Former FIP champ unsuccessfully challenged Warhorse on January 10th. So perennially, you don't want the rep as the underrated grappler. If you ever get labeled with that, do everything you can to lose it. There's nothing worse than being damned with the faint praise of you're underrated. And that goes out to any number of wrestlers. Look in my eyes. If you have the rep as an underrated grappler or you believe it yourself, do everything in your power to lose that label. It's damning you. It's poison. 435, Johnny Swinger. What's amazing is he probably did it without bumping. 433, Cody Hall. God, that guy. Every story I heard about him when he did Georgia Indies was how hard he was to work with. And he seems like a real prick. I could be wrong about that. 417, Cabana Dan Man. Somebody I've only read about in reports. But it seems like he's got his shit together, and there's a lot of mention about Bone Storm and stuff like that. So it seems to me that the Action people got their people in the like 300s and early and upper 400s. And a lot of the Southern Honor people are in the 400s. Does that mean anything significantly? No, it doesn't necessarily. But it might have mean that they made the write-ups more interesting by attaching them to bigger indies everywhere instead of just stuff that's centered around Southern Honor. Do you see what I'm saying now? Right? This is a game that you're playing. And Action, if they are indeed the ones who wrote these guys in, did a great job. And they did the job they're supposed to do. Southern Honor did a good job getting a lot of people on here, but now you can hear how to play the game differently if you want their numbers to be higher. Is everybody understanding what I'm saying? That's why I'm going over this. Robert Gibson at 403? Yeah, 403. Guy who's training guys, doing good stuff. Ricky Morton's higher, but I'm not really interested in him. Robert Gibson is the guy who does the training, so I think that's cool. AC Mack cracks in the, he's not in the 400s. He is 392. The inaugural Action champion came out strong this year as the Mac of all trades continued to add to the title's legacy. Pretty great thing to have attached to his name and for Action as well, right? Boasting 560 plus days as champ, he holds successful defenses over Fred Yehai and Kane Justice. Beat Brett Eisen for the SUP Bone Storm title in October. So it's a couple of important things that he did. Something that you would remember him by. He's had the Action title for 560 days. He puts over the promotion as much as he's being put over himself, and then significant wins that he had. Accomplishments, wins that he had, something you can identify him with. Very strong. Very strong. One called Manders at 354. Another guy that I haven't seen wrestle, but I read a lot in reports. Those reports are very important, right? Reports, pictures, video. Pictures, pictures, pictures. Southern Fried. John Davis at 353. Why do I bring up John Davis? Because I think he's fucking awesome. And I'm looking forward to seeing him in Florida shows again. I think that guy is impressive as fuck. And I'm such a fan that I would go out of my way to watch him. Even when he got his like sort of new guy trying out in Impact, they would have these weird pay-per-views just to fulfill a contractual obligation. And they had one where they had a bunch of people who were not Impact people wrestle Impact people. And I went just because I wanted to see John Davis. I think he's fucking badass and really great and probably deserved to have a bigger career than he had, if I'm being honest. 351, Ocoee Edwards. Ocoee Edwards, if he can lose this thing about like, oh, kaiju, they stole kaiju from me. That was fucking dumb as fuck. Look, you can't claim a thing like kaiju, which is a fucking Japanese word for monster. Like, that's not your shit. There's a number of people who call themselves kaiju. Fucking wrestlers, man. 350, Kevin Koo. Fucking rising up, getting shit, got MLW shit. Was once billed as my cousin. In where? PCW. Gosh, PCW, it's like you fucking find people and give them their first bookings in Georgia or something. We do. Speaking of which, Bad Luck Fale, a fucking Bullet Club, OG Bullet Club member. His first thing that he did in America, PCW ring against Jeter. Did you know that? Now you do. 341, Daniel Makabe. Really high up there. I thought it was weird that, isn't he the guy that won SCI? But it wasn't mentioned here. I just found that interesting that they didn't mention it. You can see I went through these things with a pretty fine-tooth comb. I read all 500. I do. Sal Renaro at 339. How fucking great is that? But again, when you look why, right? The former Anarchy Wrestling Triple Crown champ. So it puts Anarchy over all these other guys, right? Squared off against, and he's able to list these things. Colt Cabana, Ken Anderson, Aaron Stevens, right? Participated twice in NWA TV qualifying matches. Tagged with Michael Stevens to face Ring of Honor's The Horror Kings for a televised match. Good for fucking Sal. And good for Sal. I don't want to understate it. Apparently the match he had with Michael Judas was fantastic. And if I'm being honest, I thought it was going to be awesome because it's hard for a small guy to work with Michael Judas. I would say who could do it better than Slim J? But apparently Sal did a very good job as well. So congratulations. Sean Dean at 319. I would imagine that would be even higher now. That guy is all over the fucking AEW, which is fantastic. Anthony Henry at 290. There's a name you probably haven't heard in a while, but he's still around doing his thing. The Georgia Journeyman. If you've attached the label of Journeyman to your name, get rid of that as soon as possible too. But Georgia Journeyman held the Full Impact Pro Heavyweight Championship for an incredible 509 days before dropping it in January. Reached the semifinals of the WXW World Tag Team Festival with JD Drake before turning on Drake and Evolve and waging a bitter personal war against him. Cool shit. Shug D at 267. And he got a picture, right? Rich Swann at 230. God, who saw Rich Swann in Florida and brought him to fucking Georgia to work against the PCW champion and lose? Chip Day. That was me. Yeah, Rich Swann's great. I'm glad he keeps trucking along. I saw he's back on Impact. Awesome. AR Fox, trainer at WWA 4. Still wrestling, obviously. 189. Marco Stunt, the causer of much controversy, at 182. At this stage, I'll just be blunt and honest. The controversy with Marco Stunt and Gunnar Miller it seems like it was forever ago. And I want to see Gunnar Miller on this list. Shit, I want to see him working with Marco Stunt. Someone needs to make that fucking happen. Let me say that again. Someone needs to make that happen between Marco Stunt and Gunnar Miller. .168 Xavier Woods. That guy's a great fucking guy. I cannot say enough good things about him. Here's a thing that most people didn't know about. When he signed the WWE deal, when he went through a long period after TNA where he just couldn't get signed. But when he finally did get signed, he told me first so we can announce it on. Back then, PCW had a fucking webpage, and he did that to help us out. Let us announce the news first. What a fucking guy. Love that guy. 152, Austin Theory, back on NXT after his little problem. But it's weird watching Murphy and Seth Rollins do their thing on Raw every week, and Austin Theory's not in that mix. Hopefully this year he'll get back to doing his shit. 121, Kyle O'Reilly. He's notable because along with Fale, Davey Richards, Tony Kozina, who used to come and do PCW shows all the time, Kyle O'Reilly was really green and being trained by Davey. And Kyle got a mention in one of the wrestling magazines and got a full picture of like up and coming star. He's going to be a star of the future. And I found that magazine for him and gave it to him. And he was so blown away. It still meant so much to him to be in a magazine. And then I'd found it and gave it to him. So I just thought that was notable and cool. Number 118, Masato Tanaka, still doing it. And listen to my Patreon if you want to hear some Masato Tanaka stories. Oh. Number 20, Jacob Fatu. He's the MLW champion who I was incredibly impressed with when I went to that show of theirs in Orlando. Seeing him in person, like, he should absolutely be this high. Fucking awesome. Just love that guy. Number 10, AJ Styles, notable for his connections to Wildside and Anarchy. And he did a number of Georgia Indies before he signed with WWE. Some good, some bad. And he was also ranked number 1 at one point. So why am I bringing him up? Because you best believe being ranked number 1 in the PWI meant a whole fucking lot to AJ Styles. And you better believe it means a whole fucking lot to this guy Moxley. And people will complain that the top 10 or 20 are filled with too many Japanese guys and AEW guys. To which I say, the shit's not real. But I will say it is an acknowledgement that the great wrestling is going on in Japan and that Moxley clearly is the number 1. I think that's a great choice. I think Moxley right now Roman Reigns is significant, but Moxley is the number 1 wrestler in the sense that AEW hitched their wagon to him and he has done nothing but deliver matches and promos. Let me put it this way. Has there ever been a good Fiend match? Has there ever been a great Braun Strowman match? But Moxley has worked with anybody and everybody that has been put in front of them and managed to put them over while simultaneously retaining the title and looking strong in the process. And he's willing to bleed and he's willing to do all these fucking great things. I think Moxley represents himself very well and absolutely deserves to be number 1. But at the end of the day, the PWI 500 is what it is. And the value of it, it's a fleeting thing, but it's cool to get your name in. And make no mistake, you get your name in there by somebody putting in the work for you or you putting in the work yourself. And in fact, you know, wrestlers have contacted me and they have the goal of winning this award or the most improved or this, that, or the other for Georgia Wrestling History Awards. And that's wonderful and you should have those goals. But your other goal should be to get in here. And how do you get in here? I fucking told you multiple times. But you can look this up digitally and see how they write it up and what they're looking for. And then find a way to fill in those gaps for your limited resume. All these are limited resumes. Let me find somebody at random. Anthony Green. It's got his measurements. 6'2", 191. 8 years a pro. Last year ranked 496. Retrosexual continues to forge on Outside Evolve. Reigning Limitless Champion beat MJF for the honors in September. Popular competitor throughout the Northeast, he rocks a mean stash and Zubaz-style gear. 27-year-old's relationship with Ava Arrett has a real power couple potential. 2 interesting things about him: significant people that he beat and significant titles and promotions that he worked for. What would you fill in right now in that Mad Libs short resume description? You need to start thinking about it. Because if you don't have the goal of trying to get in here, or have somebody advocate for you to get you in here, then you're missing out on something really cool. So get to work. Congratulations on the promotions for putting up the best weekend of wrestling in 2020. And here's to many more. This has been Full Disclosure.